Okay, problem is, what is the mass in grams of sulfur? So we're looking for the grams of sulfur. So I'm going to put that over here as a reminder of what I'm looking for. In 7.63 grams of magnesium bisulfate, notice that the compound is given, so you don't have to know the name of these compounds. It just put it in there, but it also put the formula. The molar mass of magnesium bisulfate is 186.45 grams over moles. Notice that in the problem it's written the side by side on the units. Here I wrote it top and bottom, so it's going to help me see how to cancel those units out correctly. So the first thing I'm going to do is look and see what information do I have and what am I trying to get. I know the mass of the compound. I want to find the mass of just the sulfur in that compound. So the first thing I'm going to look at is what are the simplest units here. I have grams here and I have grams per mole. So which one is the simpler unit? So the 7.63 grams, that's what I'm going to start with. And I can't make a direct relationship between the grams of the compound and the grams of sulfur. Remember that moles is that central unit that we go to that we make those comparisons, because we're not comparing the mass of something or the volume of something, we're comparing the number of something. So if we think about if we have a ton of feathers and a ton of elephants, both of them weigh the same, but we have very different numbers of them. So here we want to get to where we're talking about the number of things, so then we can figure out the mass of the other substance. So here we have 7.63 grams of magnesium HSO3 2. And so I know no matter what, I have to have grams on the bottom, and I have been given the molar mass of the compound. So I have 186.45 grams per mole. And I'm going to go ahead and put this compound in here to remind me that that's what I'm still looking at. I'm still dealing with the compound. So if I stopped here, this would give me the moles of my compound. So I'm going to cancel out grams and grams. So this gives me the mole of my compound, but I want to get to just sulfur. So now I need to make that relationship between moles of the compound and moles of sulfur. So I know that on the bottom of this step, I have to have moles of my magnesium HSO3 2. And what I'm going to put on top is I'm going to go to moles of, whoops, didn't leave room to write there. Okay, I'm going to put my moles of sulfur. So where am I going to look to get the number of sulfur in a number of moles of sulfur in each mole of the compound? So we look at the formula. So when I look at my formula here, I see that there's a sulfur inside the parentheses. There's no subscript there, so that it means a 1, but there is a 2 outside the parentheses, so that goes with everything in the parentheses. So for every mole of magnesium bisulfate, I have 2 moles of sulfur. So the relationship between moles of an element and moles of the compound is the same as the relationship that if I looked at moles of one molecule of a compound to its elements. So let's look at a quick example if you're stuck on this to water. So if I have one water molecule, okay, so one water molecule, that means I have 2 H atoms and 1 O atom. So that relationship at the molecular and atomic level is exactly the same as the relationship I'd have at the mole level. Because if I had 1 mole of water molecules, I'd have 2 moles of H atoms, and I'd have 1 mole of oxygen atoms. Because remember, a mole is just a counting number. So now, okay, I know my relationship, 2 moles of sulfur for every mole of the compound, because I have a sulfur in the parentheses and the 2 outside the parentheses. So now moles of magnesium cancel. I have 2 moles of sulfur, and I'm going to have to come around to the next line because I'm running out of room. So I don't want moles of sulfur for my answer. I want grams of sulfur. So that means I need to get rid of the moles of sulfur. So it's going to go on the bottom of the next step. And remember, where can I get the relationship between grams and moles for an element? It's off the periodic table. So we have 32.06 grams per 1 mole of sulfur. Okay, that came straight from the periodic table. Now my moles of sulfur cancel, And if at this point when I look at my units, what I'm left with is grams of sulfur. So everything canceled out except the grams of sulfur. So now I need to go back and do the calculation. So I have 7.63 times 2 times 32.06. So I took everything that was across the top first, and then I'm going to divide by 186.45. So remember the other two numbers on the bottom are 1, so I don't really need to do anything with them. And what I get is 2.62 grams of sulfur. And I look at this and say, okay, well, 2.62 is less than 7.63, and that's reasonable. If I had gotten a mass of sulfur that was greater than the mass of the compound, that wouldn't have been reasonable because the sulfur is part of the compound, so the mass of the element must be less than the mass of the compound.